Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Corey Huntsberger. This is Alan Huntsberger, my father, in the studio with me as well. And Dad, we're giving away a free booklet called The Living Stone, A Journey in Transformation. It's yours absolutely free. It's going to help you build a stronger relationship with Jesus. You can get it by going to our website, gotalktruth.com, click on resources, fill out the form. We'll send one to you in the mail. Powerful, powerful information in there, Dad. Give us a little taste. Why is it so powerful?
Well, one of the things that the book says is offering ourselves as living sacrifices also means surrendering our will to God's. It's easy to say that we trust God, but it's much harder to actually let go of control and allow Him to direct our lives. Yet this is what God calls us to do as His children. He asks us to trust that His plans are better than our own and that He knows what is best for us. Now, this surrender is not always easy. It requires humility and a willingness to admit that we don't have all the answers. Wow. It requires faith, believing that God's always are higher. God's ways are always higher than ours, and that He is always working for our good. But when we surrender, we experience the peace and freedom that come from knowing that our lives are in God's hands.
Why do you think that's so hard for people to do? You think that's because society, it goes against what society tells you to do? You know what I mean? Why do you think that's so difficult?
I think it's exactly why, because of what even is happening on our program. Some of us see the injustice that's going on, and yet it seems like there's deaf ears and blind eyes, and people don't see it or don't want to see it, or they want to see this evil continue to penetrate in our country. And those of us that see us, it drives you around the living bend. And that's where you've got to say, you know what, God, you are in control, and I yield to you. And therefore, I just pray, Father God, have mercy on people that are suffering, and have mercy on the souls of those who are carrying out this evil, because there is going to be a day of judgment. And my prayer is that they'll make things right with you before that day of judgment, because when that day of judgment comes, there's no mercy after that.
Wow, that's really good. Let's get on with our show. We've got Mr. Shawn Buckley back. Shawn, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me back. Glad to be here.
Shawn, we're going through the testimony of Dr. Makis, which, by the way, he's a regular guest on this show. We love Dr. Makis. He's got some fascinating statistics. He gets passionate as well in this testimony. I don't know if it's this episode or if it's tomorrow's, but he's super passionate, and I love what he has to say. I'm going to go ahead and let you team up.
Yeah, but I mean, he's seen that we're harming children, and he just can't sit still. So your viewers understand. So Dr. Makis is a high-end oncologist. So he's not just a cancer doctor. And to become a cancer doctor, an oncologist, I mean, the amount of training after you become a doctor is extreme. But he ran the Cross Cancer Institute in Alberta. So not only was he managing a large number of patients, but he was a pioneer researcher in the use of medical isotopes to treat cancer. I mean, this gentleman that you're about to hear is a world expert in treating cancer. And, he's been clear, and it starts to come out in this testimony. He's seen, cancers appearing in children that shouldn't be happening, and fast and aggressive ones. And when he's giving you statistics, understand from the previous Talk Truth show that you should go and see, this is all underreported dramatically. So these numbers are just a fraction of what's going on. And this is disturbing because he gives us case by case examples. I have to say, I got upset, even though I already knew this stuff because I had called him as a witness. I found it troubling to prepare for this show.
Yeah, let's watch part 2.
And so there is a tremendous amount of data that has been published by various data analysts showing that there are excess deaths of young people, including children, and that this data shows an inflection point starting in 2021. We do not see this signal in 2020 when the COVID pandemic was raging. We do not see an excess of deaths of children and young adults. And so this is work that has been done by Ethical Skeptic And he has repeatedly published data from the CDC, published it in graph form, showing excess deaths in children and young adults that started with the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccines in early 2021, and really the deaths have continued on a steady incline ever since. This is in the United States. When you break it down to children only, 2 to 17 years old, we see the same pattern, excess deaths without COVID, starting in 2021 when the vaccines rolled out, and this pattern has been increasing ever since. Ed Dowd, former BlackRock hedge fund manager and a data analyst who has his own data analysis firm, Finance Technologies, has published extensive data regarding excess deaths in children in various countries, and he's correlated this to the COVID-19 vaccine rollout. He has published excess deaths in the United Kingdom, for example, the top left, excess deaths of 16%, starting in 2022 and 2023, again correlating with the vaccine rollout in young age groups. We see the same pattern in Ireland, we see the same pattern in the United States. Now we come to cancer deaths, or cancer excess deaths. So before I was talking about all-cause mortality, now I'm talking about cancer-related mortality. And we see a pattern that's even more dramatic when it comes to cancer deaths. Cancer deaths also started in 2021 and have been on an even sharper incline than all-cause mortality. Again, this is data from the Ethical Skeptic, CDC data from the United States, showing excess deaths due to malignant neoplasms that have risen dramatically with a sigma of 12. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Dr. David Wiseman has published a paper, again, regarding cancer mortality in the United States, showing a dramatic increase. There's been a mild increase in 2020, but a dramatic increase in 2021 and 2022. Again, this is death trends for neoplasms, for cancer. And what we see is that the cancer deaths are disconnecting from all-cause deaths. You will see the red graphs on the right are showing a continued increase in cancer deaths, whereas all-cause mortality is starting to drop off. And this is what has been worrying me as a radiologist and oncologist, is that the cancer deaths now seem to be disconnecting and continue to rise even as all-cause mortality is showing signs of dropping. Ed Dowd, again, has published more data about cancer deaths in young people ages 15 to 44. This is in England and Wales. And again, we see a dramatic increase in excess death rates due to neoplasms, due to cancer in England and Wales, with a rise of 13% in 2021 and 43% rise in cancer deaths in 2022. Even in Japan, they noticed the same thing. And so there was a paper published just last year talking about increased cancer mortality after the third mRNA lipid nanoparticle vaccine dose during the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is what the authors stated. So there was no significant excess mortality observed during the first year of the pandemic, 2020. However, some excess cancer mortality was observed in 2021 after mass vaccination with the first and second vaccine doses. Significant excess mortalities were observed for all cancers and some specific types of cancer, including ovarian cancer, leukemia, prostate cancer, lip, oral, pharyngeal, pancreatic cancer, and breast cancer after mass vaccination with the third dose in 2022. This is in Japan. This paper was attacked. 2 months after it was published, it was retracted, it was withdrawn. I have not seen this in my academic career. I can tell you I have over 100 publications spanning 3 continents. Since 2009 I've been publishing. I have never seen papers retracted 2 months after publication, after they have passed peer review. I've never seen this in my academic career. And so I wanted to share with you some heartbreaking cases of children who developed cancer after taking COVID-19 vaccines. Now, these are cases that are documented in the US Vaccine Adverse Reporting System. And I categorize them by age because, as you will see, as you go through different age categories of children, the pattern of cancer changes. And that is very, very important. So in children ages 0 to 4, there is one case of leukemia in the VAERS reporting system. It is a 20-month-old boy from California. He had 3 Moderna vaccines, 20 months old. I'm going to read the write-up for you. Within a couple of weeks after getting the vaccine, now this is after getting the 3rd dose, unusual symptoms started occurring. Lumps began forming on head first, then neck. They grew and multiplied over the course of about 2 months. During this time, he was also getting unusually tired, had hives intermittently for no clear reason, and eventually developed nausea. We brought him to urgent care twice and to ER twice over 2 months. In May 2023, he was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. This is a 20-month-old baby that had 3 Moderna vaccines. The last one, he was injected on February 18th. By May, 3 months later, or not even 3 months later, he developed acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Now we move to the age category 5 to 11 years old. 5-month-old boy, this is the case on the left, 5-year-old boy from New Jersey, had 2 doses of Pfizer vaccine. First dose was administered April 19th, and then second dose was administered on May 10th, and then developed life-threatening acute lymphocytic leukemia that required hospitalization on May 12th. This is 3 weeks after the first dose of the Pfizer vaccine. Next case. A 9-year-old girl from Virginia had 2 Pfizer doses. First dose was on November 12th. She was diagnosed with leukemia on December 24th. This is a month and 2 weeks after her second Pfizer dose. Therapeutic measures included chemotherapy taken as a result of leukemia. Next case, a 9-year-old girl from Washington had an unknown number of Moderna vaccines. The last vaccine she had was on July 12th, blood checked on July 28th because she was sick. She was feeling unwell ever since she got the vaccine. Her white blood cell count was incredibly high. We were sent to emergency where they confirmed leukemia. We then took a life flight to the hospital the same day where they confirmed T-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia. She began chemotherapy the following day. This is how aggressive this cancer was, is that this child had to start chemotherapy the following day. There is also lymphoma that has been reported in these children 5 to 11 years old. This is a 9-year-old boy from a foreign country who had 2 Pfizer vaccines. First dose was administered on March 7th, and by June 8th, he was diagnosed with Burkitt's lymphoma. This is a very sad story. When you read the rest of the story, it tells you that the child's family's savings have been depleted. As per the mother, they've already sold their properties just to ensure the son would be healed. The patient has already been through 6 cycles of chemotherapy and underwent operations for taking out the lymph nodes. So this child took first Pfizer vaccine in March, and by June, he was diagnosed with Burkitt's lymphoma. Next case is an 11-year-old girl in Guam. These vaccines, Pfizer vaccines, were administered by the military. This patient had a rash, a severe rash, on the day of the first Pfizer vaccine. The same rash worsened when she got the second Pfizer vaccine, And approximately 1 month after the rash started, patient was admitted with facial swelling and neck venous distension. The chest x-rays showed a thymic mass, biopsy-proven Hodgkin lymphoma stage 4. And so now I move to children 12 to 19 years old, and I want to only give you a few more of these cases. There are a bunch for me that I could go through, but I want to stress just a few more of these, and please bear with me. These children, 12 to 19 years old, received the full adult dose of the COVID-19 vaccines, and I must stress that. These children were given the full adult dose. The younger children who developed leukemia and lymphoma were given a third of the dose. They were given a smaller dose. These kids, full adult dose. First case on the left, a 13-year-old girl from Texas had an unknown number of Pfizer vaccines, received one of those Pfizer vaccines in August of 2021. By September, she began to have some vague complaints of upper back pain, was hospitalized in October. By November, she had a left atrial mass resection on November 11th. Now, what is a left atrial mass resection? She has a cancer on her heart, and they tried to resect this cancer from her heart. But the mass continued to grow and increase in size even after it was resected. This girl died on December 1st. So let me recap that. She had a Pfizer vaccine in August, started complaining of vague complaints in her back in September, hospitalized in October, had this cardiac tumor resected in mid-November, and by December 1st, she was dead. 13-year-old girl from Texas. Next case, a 15-year-old boy from Texas, right around the same time, actually, had 2 Pfizer vaccines. Approximately 1 month after vaccination, patient noticed a bump growing on his mandible. It was rapidly growing. It turned out to be cancerous, bone cancer. Now, this was probably an osteosarcoma. A couple more cases, if you bear with me. A 15-year-old girl from New York had 2 Pfizer vaccines. A week and a half after getting her second dose of the Pfizer COVID vaccine, my daughter noticed a lump near her groin and another on her lower buttock. Further evaluation and tests have resulted in rhabdomyosarcoma diagnosis. A rhabdomyosarcoma is a cancer of the muscle, extremely aggressive. Next case, 18-year-old boy from Missouri, had 1 Moderna vaccine. He got his vaccines, and then 10 days later, he got COVID. And he did not get any medical care, and after that, about 2 years later, he ended up with a knot in his arm that grew. They removed the mass, and it came back as being a sarcoma. And so this is a report, an example of a report much, much later. We don't see a lot of these reports because as time goes on, the parents and the doctors do not associate a cancer diagnosis with a vaccine the child may have had a year ago, a year and a half ago. And so we see less of those cases as time goes on. These kids are also getting leukemia as well in this age group, 12 to 19. The case on the left, a 13-year-old girl who had 2 Pfizer vaccines. The first dose received on an unknown date, then she got the second dose on January 20th. By January 23rd, she went to a clinic because her whole body was weak and her face was pale. Blood tests were performed. By January 25th, she's diagnosed with acute lymphoid leukemia. Now, this is 5 days after her second dose of Pfizer. She's diagnosed with leukemia. The leukemia was so aggressive that she had to be immediately hospitalized, and this girl died on March 2nd. So about a month later, after hospitalization, she died. The family did not want an autopsy. Next case, a 16-year-old girl had an unknown number of Pfizer vaccines. 16-year-old girl received the Pfizer vaccine on November 24th. By March 2022, she was diagnosed with leukemia. And we get a little bit more explanation in the write-up at the bottom. After a month of the vaccine, the patient has seen hair loss, loss of appetite, dizziness. They went for an eye consult because the dizziness continued, and then during the examination, she was diagnosed with leukemia. So she would have had a Pfizer vaccine in November. By March, a few months later, diagnosed with leukemia. A 14-year-old boy had one Pfizer vaccine on July 5th. By July 23rd, he had an emergency operation to remove 500 grams of fluid from the pericardium, the membrane enclosing the heart. He also had sudden cessation of breathing during anesthesia, and his heart stopped twice during the procedure. He was then diagnosed with a 15-centimeter tumor on the chest. 15-centimeter tumor. This tumor was a lymphoma. Next case, and this is the last case I'm going to go into depth on. This was a 14-year-old boy from California, had 2 Pfizer vaccines, and had a second vaccine in August, developed eczema in both feet, started taking steroid cream for the eczema in both feet. In December, he collapsed after a soccer match. Now, there's a sign that something is very, very wrong with this poor boy. Collapsed after a soccer match in December, extremely fatigued, heart rate was over 100, continued to complain of fatigue more than usual, and so they went to the pediatrician. Pediatrician ran tests, and by January 19th, he was diagnosed with T-cell lymphoblastic lymphoma. So again, a second dose of Pfizer in August, collapses on a soccer field in December. By January, he's diagnosed with an extremely aggressive cancer, T-cell lymphoblastic lymphoma.
Well, that was testimony by Dr. Makis from the Edmonton hearings that you had recently. Shawn, I'm going to go ahead and let you have the floor.
Well, you know what troubled me about this is, in a way, it's a little clinical. He's giving you case reports. They're fairly technical. But where I had trouble is, we're actually talking about children's lives. Like, one that sticks out, like a 9-year-old boy that basically gets lymphoma, and like 5 courses of chemotherapy, surgery to remove lymph nodes. And, the family sold the house and is absolutely destroyed to try and protect their children is another one. Like, there's that 13-year-old girl with the sarcoma cancer. Well, there's the lump on her heart. Like, there's this surgery. And we can see it clinically, but can you imagine these young children having to go through aggressive chemotherapy, having to go through surgeries, and the trauma that the family is experiencing? These aren't numbers. These are children that we have deliberately hurt, and I use the term deliberate, with intention, by jabbing them with a, vaccine, so-called, that wasn't necessary and isn't necessary. And what's even more troubling is we're in the province I'm in Alberta. It's on the childhood schedule at 6 months. Your viewers need to watch the first show on Talk Truth with Dr. Makis, where he shows the Alberta vaccination schedule. And I think every other province is similar. What are we doing?
I love that you put it that way, Shawn. We continue to have this information out there, and we're presenting it in different ways. Some people need the clinical, to be able to really kind of get it in their head of the damage that this is doing. But I'm glad you said what you said, because we don't want to lose fact that these are families that have been devastated, children that they have lost for doing something that they're told or they think they're doing the right thing for their kids, and there's no answers, and they're being ignored, and the list goes on. Dad, I'm going to give you the floor. What do you have to say?
Well,
Ooh, here it comes. Get your popcorn out.
Yeah, I'm just devastated. I am over and over again. Every time I see these programs, my heart just cries out for families. The thing that bothers me the most is media and the lies and the mistruths and the knowledge that media doesn't even tell people. They always, give the bad reports about Dr. Makis, never the good reports. They So therefore, when some people hear our program for the first time, they think we're the ones that are telling the disinformation, and we're the ones that are telling the unscientific truth, when in essence, it's reversed. We're telling you the truth. We're giving you the God's honest truth of what's going on in our world, and what you hear on your regular mainstream media a lot of times is not the truth. And that's the sad story. And I just pray that the truth will win out sooner than later.
Well, Shawn, we got part 3 coming up tomorrow. That's the last part of his testimony. Thank you so much. We're definitely going to have you back tomorrow. Appreciate you. Dad, let's get grounded in our verse. Let's do our verse. The earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants belong to the Lord. So I'm guessing this grieves his heart, Dad. If the earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants belong to the Lord, his heart must be grieved. For he laid its foundation on the seas and he established it on the rivers. When God sees that humans are doing this to each other, they got to be grieving. He's got to be grieving. Sorry.
Yeah, and I also think that, the Lord God gets angry. And we see this with the children of Israel. We see this before the flood. I mean, man just went around sinning, and everything he did was sin. And therefore, God said, I'm not going to let this continue to happen. So, I mean, we are walking a tightrope here in this very evil world, and hopefully man will wake up before it's too late.
And I think they will. I think. But we have to continue to be faithful in doing what we're doing. Shawn has to be faithful. Leighton Gray has to be faithful. Dr. Makis has to be faithful. Charles Hoff, Dr. Hoff has to be faithful. Everyone has to continue to be faithful, doing what they're doing, even though you do grow weary, Dad. But
yeah, I mean, and of course the scripture says, don't get weary in doing good. you know.
If you want to help support our mission and keep this kind of conversation in truth on the air, we can only do it because of you and your generosity. We don't take government funds. We don't take lobbyist funds or special interest groups. It's only because people want to get the truth out there, like you and your generosity. You can go to our website at gotalktruth.com. You can click on donate. There are many different ways you can give digitally that way. If you'd like to do it through the mail, you can. You can make your check payable to Heritage Christian Ministries Association and send it to 246 Stewart Green, Southwest, Suite 3260, Calgary, Alberta, T3H3C8. And if you'd like prayer, you can get it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at our toll-free number, 1-800-915-0056. All right, Dad, we're out of time. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Love you.